Welcome to Productive Joy with Dr. Christie, where fun meets action.
Hi, friends. Welcome to Productive Joy. I have another fantastic guest for you today. And my new friend, Melissa, and I go way back to like a couple weeks ago when I had a chance to be on her podcast. But before I introduce her to you, I need you to follow this podcast. She knows, I know, if you're not following, you don't get alerted, and we want you to be alerted. So do me that favor, hit subscribe, follow, whatever platform you're on, so that you'll get alerted when great people like Melissa are here. So our guest today is super special. Melissa Aarskaug is a lot of things. She is the VP of all kinds of things. She's going to tell us about that later. She has a double engineering degree. She's in tech and cyber growth and all of the stuff that goes along with it. She's also a mom. She's a podcast queen. She is a master networker. She's a yogi, a foodie, a globetrotter, and she likes to share things with people and for people. But my favorite thing that she is she's the get out of jail person that people call when they really need somebody in their corner. And she's my friend. Melissa, welcome to Productive Joy.
Thank you so much for having me here today, Dr. Christie.
We're going to have some fun together, no doubt. And as you know, because you do this for a living as well, with Executive Connection, your podcast, or Executive Connects, right? It's not Connection, it's just Connects. Okay, so people listen for about 30 seconds and then they get bored. So what would you say to these listeners in like 30 seconds that would make them go, holy cow, I need to listen to this episode?
Productive joy and joy in general starts from within. If you don't have it first within yourself, you can't bring it forward into your life. So going within and making things happy on the inside, or what needs to be cleaned up, is most important to live a blessed and blissful life.
Couldn't agree more. I could not agree more. Okay, so you have done some stuff, my friend. All right, let's go way back. And well, actually, it's not been that long ago, but I happened to notice as I was cyber stalking you that you went to the University of Nevada, Reno. So is Nevada home somehow for you, or what took you to Nevada?
Yes, I was born in Arizona, raised in Las Vegas during the construction boom. And I found my way to UNR accidentally from in high school. I went to high school in Las Vegas, and I was walking around my high school campus, and I ran into the dean of the College of Engineering. He asked me if I was good at math, and I said, yep. And I went into their introductory call about the University of Nevada, Reno. And it wasn't actually my first college of choice. It was like way down the list. But I ended up going to UNR, and I have a dual in civil and environmental engineering.
That is so amazing. Okay, back up. I grew up in Vegas too. So I was born there, but I only lived there till I was 11. Both my brothers went to high school there though. So what high school did you go to?
Silverado. It was brand new when I first went there.
Okay, so one went to Chaparral and one went to Valley. I don't know why my brothers didn't go to the same high school, but I don't think that they did. Anyway, small world. How fun is that? You know, when I say I was born in Vegas, people are like, wait, people are actually born there? I'm like, yep, sure. So you weren't there, but you ended up there. That's pretty fun.
Well, it's funny because my brother and I went to different high school. Vegas was just growing and expanding in the 80s and 90s. And so a lot of families, their kids I went to one school, my brother went to a different school about a mile and a half away.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Oh my gosh, such a small world. Okay, so we've got lots of other things to talk about, but you do actually work in a gaming, so tell us a little bit about the VP that you are today, because you have been a VP of multiple things. So tell us about what you're doing right now.
Yeah, I found my way into the casino gaming space non-traditionally. I applied for the wrong job, and I went in I had an initial phone interview with somebody in their HR department who called me originally. And then I went in for an interview, and I had zero contacts, zero knowledge of the gaming industry, but I had something special that they saw in me, and I've been at the company for 14 years this year.
And you have moved your way up and done all kinds of things. What's your favorite thing about your job?
I love working with our clients and solving their problems and helping them build strategies around things that's keeping them up at night and helping them solve them.
Yeah. Okay. So, with your engineering mind, you see things as puzzles that you need to put together,
I
right?
sure do.
Oh, that is really cool. Well, how has that served you in your newer ventures, right? Because you have a booming podcast that's doing some really great stuff. You and your husband are doing some really cool things. So, how has that systems thinking and that linear mindset served you in this space?
That's a really great question. I love that question because I think the one thing people always ask me is none of the things about you stack up. And so, what I would say is, I lean into all the facets of who I am regularly, and I suss out the stuff that is most interesting to me. So, kind of like Curious George, things like I wouldn't consider myself a salesperson. I wouldn't consider myself a podcaster. There's a lot of pieces within me I wouldn't consider myself. It just kind of happened that I became interested in these things, and I really got a lot of joy out of doing podcasting and working in sales. I love to solve our clients problems. And so what I would say is really leaning into things that maybe you're not so good at, or things that you're not normally that you normally do, because that's where some of the most important pivots in my life happened, is when things happened a different way or a different direction, or I was cut from the softball team and I ended up placing second at state, not because I wasn't good at softball, because I had a concussion and I couldn't try out for the team. And so sometimes life serves us different lemons, and I like to make lemonade out of whatever happens in my life, good or bad.
I think that is such a wise lesson. I had somebody on the podcast once that said, "If life gives you lemons, make orange juice." I was like, "Say more." He's like, "You don't actually have to use the lemons you're given, and you figured out a way to use those lemons to make really great things happen." Did somebody teach you that, or did you just by nature recognize, you know what, it's okay to not know and it's okay to try new things?
I would say when I was younger, I did not really subscribe to that. I think when I was younger, I always thought leaders had to know everything about everything. They had to be the best at everything, and they got the title because they knew everything. And the older I got, the more I realized that good leaders are just really resilient people that work on areas that they're not great on and bring in problem solvers for the areas that they need support. So I have a robust rock stars in my network that I call when I need help in areas that I may not know or I may not understand. And I'm something else to them that they need to solve, a puzzle piece that they need. So I would say that I didn't grow up knowing that. I just kind of became that the older I got and the more that I experienced, challenges and problems. I think it's how I look at them. We can either move into the victim mode and say that everything's happening at me, or we can flip the narrative and understand why and make the changes to get clear and ask better questions. And sometimes that changes our directions, and sometimes it keeps us where we are. But mostly it's really a dialogue I have with myself and the people that are around me.
I love it. And so I'm thinking about my own kids, and my children are 24. Actually, when this airs, I will have 3 because my son is getting married in July, and our daughter, I get all 3 of them. They're all 24. And I'm watching them. And what you just said is so true. You know, they look at us and they think that's where they're supposed to be at 24. Well, at 48, I am very different than he was at 24. And I think what you just said is something I hope they'll hold on to, which is you don't have to know it all at 24. You don't have to know it all at 48. You have to keep learning until you die, right? Like that should be your MO. Do you see that in your full-time job? Like, do you see that in your VP experience where people are willing to grow? Or is that something that you kind of have to teach people?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it depends. I think what I'm learning is the more and more we move into AI space and the new technologies, the more people are realizing the way we used to do things is not the way we need to do things. And I'll use a common example. When COVID happened, everybody went home and worked from home. And back before COVID, we believed that nobody could work from home because they weren't productive. And I'll tell you, I'm one of the most, my productivity drastically increased when I worked from home because I'm somebody that if I'm constantly distracted throughout the day, it takes me time to get refocused. When I went home to work from home, I became so productive and so good at what I was doing because I wasn't constantly bombarded all day, every day with people walking into my office or things happening. So for me, that those old ways that we've been doing things are really different than they are today. And really, back in the day, you could just be a doctor, you could just be a marketer, you could just be an engineer. Today, we can't just be a one thing. We all need to become a Swiss Army knife, whether we want to or not. We're going to have to learn the easy way or the hard way. And I prefer to learn the easy way. So I like to prepare myself for what's next.
It's got to be that engineering mind, right? Like you're looking at it going, oh, no, 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 we're going to be efficient with this. We're going to do this in a way that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think it's learning, right? And I'll use an analogy like we've all gone on bad dates, or most people have gone on bad dates. I know if I have a friend that she married her high school sweetheart, and that was the end, and they've been married forever. But not all of us get that the easy way. I shouldn't say it's the easy way because it's never really the easy way, but
Different way.
not all of us get that. We got to try on bad dates and learn what we didn't like and then repivot and say, okay, I'm not going to date somebody that has X, or I want somebody that has Y. And so it's really trials and tribulations and learning and, making mistakes and being okay with making mistakes. I make so many mistakes all the time, and being okay with those and owning up to your mistakes, or having people that hold you accountable, like my son. He's 3 and he holds me accountable when I do things like say a word I shouldn't say. He'll be like, mommy, that's a bad word, you shouldn't say that. And then I own up to him and I say, yep, mommy said a bad word, I'm sorry, I'll do better next time. And so I think it's having those checks and balances in our life. I don't know about you, I've made some dumb mistakes with money. And so I had to make some dumb mistakes. Some of them I've made more than once. And so I think it's all learning, right? We're either going to be served up the same mistake over and over and over again, or we're going to learn from our mistakes. And so I choose to learn from them. A lot of them, most of them, I make only one time. But there's a couple in there, Dr. Christie, where I've had to make more than once.
Yeah, I don't think you're alone in that. I think that the knowing doing gap is more of a chasm, right? Like there's this ginormous hole that says, I know better, but did I do better? No, not yet. And so we're all working towards that, I think. Well, you teed me up so beautifully to ask my favorite question, because this podcast is called Productive Joy, and I believe we all need a little more of that in our lives. But if you had to describe productive joy, how would you describe it?
For me, productive joy is like the silver lining in my day, finding the places that make me happy and leaning into the places that don't make me happy. Nobody likes to do housework and chores and, you know, all the things. I mean, maybe some of us do. I personally don't like doing dishes and laundry, but I try to make it fun and productive. So I'll bring in my kids or I'll bring in my husband and we'll turn on some music and I'll cook dinner and he'll do the dishes, or he'll cook dinner and I'll do the dishes, and really just making the things that are difficult in our life fun and joyful, because there's a lot of things we have to do that aren't joyful. Like for me, I do my work expenses on the weekend.
Oh.
I do not like doing work expenses and it irritates me every time I do it. So I do it on the weekend and I turn on music and I race through them really quick without distraction. So I think it's finding joy in the most unjoyful things.
Yeah. Well, okay. So I say it often, but the good and the bad are both always there. And where we put our focus is what we're going to see. So if we say, oh my gosh, I have to do expenses today and I can't believe it, then it's going to feel miserable. But if you turn on music and you say, you know what, this is only going to take me 30 minutes and I'm going to focus and then I have the rest of my day to do whatever I want, then you can find the joy. And I just appreciate your definition so much. And so then the follow-up question to that would be, how do you help create joy, productive joy for your people, right? So in the work setting, how do you create productive joy?
I like to always leave people better than I found them. I find sometimes difficult leaders challenge people to get out of their own space. So I'll give you an example. I had an employee that used to work for me who's no longer at the company, so I can say this. He was so fearful to present in front of the room. He was literally petrified, couldn't remember his name, scared to death to present in front of a room. So I just stood up in front of the room and presented with him and teed him up to support him and things. And then finally, when he had the rhythm down, I stepped away and let him run with it. And I do that with my children. You know, this past weekend, I was driving a boat and I was trying to get one of my 12-year-olds to drive it, and she refused to do it. So I sat up there, let her sit on my lap. And guess what? She didn't stop driving the boat. We had to tell her, okay, that's enough. That's enough. So I think when we give our family, friends, employees the opportunity to have collaboration with us in areas they're not strong, it gives them the confidence to do it. And vice versa, sometimes tough leaders have to suss out something within their employees that they're really, really good at. And those discussions can be difficult sometimes because I knew inside this person was a really great speaker. I just had to suss it out and get it out of him. And that's what good leaders do.
Could not agree more. And I think that goes back to knowing your people too. You knew that this guy had something that he wasn't bringing to the table yet. And then you made it safe for him to do just that. And that safety, that psychological safety, where he knew you weren't going to hurt him and you weren't going to leave him there all by himself until he was ready, really does shift people's willingness to try. And you're doing a beautiful job as a leader to make that happen. So you're in the gaming industry. And I'm going to guess, as a double engineering degree person in the gaming industry, you're one of the few women who have made it into that space. So, how do you handle that, knowing that you are fully capable of sitting right there, but then there's also that feeling sometimes of being the only one, and then when you're the only one, that feels a little weird. So, how do you overcome that?
You know, it's interesting. I've been asked this question a lot of different ways, but for me, I never really showed up working with the gaming clients that were men, like thinking I'm a woman and he's a man. Like I never showed up that way. I just showed up that I am here as an employee working at this company to solve their problems. And I've had some people that didn't want to work with me because I'm female, and that's okay. That's their choice. That's their experience. So I passed the baton to somebody else that's a man to work with them. And I meet clients where they are. I've had clients that didn't want to work with me because I was blonde. And I'm like, no problem. And so I think I just meet people where they are. And I also believe in bringing others up with me. So I speak a lot in the industry, and I've brought a lot of women to sit at the table with me in collaboration. So if I have the opportunity to pick the panelists, 99.9% of the time, I'm picking a woman to be on the panel and asking for specific women to be on the panel. A few of them I've convinced, begged, pleaded to be on, had never ever spoke ever in front of a room. And their speaking careers are like on the rise, and they're speaking a ton. They've been in magazines. And so I feel truly blessed to be give people the courage to do something they wouldn't do. I've had a couple women, Dr. Christie, that I've held their hand under tables while they were doing big things. And that's between me and them. But I think being a good human whether it's a man or a woman or a Democrat or Republican, just being a good human and realizing the positive in everything. I'm not saying, if people are doing you wrong that you don't call it. I'm saying suss it out and understand what's going on with a positive mindset and positive intentions and appreciate not everybody's going to meet you where you land. People just can't, and that's their experience, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But I have to lean out.
Yeah, my mom says that it's their level of consciousness, right? Like at the point where they are today, this day, are they capable of handling it and whatever it is? I really appreciate you recognizing that, you're just a human. And when you show up, it's not you're male, female, anything like that. It's more I'm showing up as the best version of myself. I'm going to ask you to do the same and I'm going to assume that you're going to do the same. And when you don't and you prove me wrong, I'm going to listen, but not going to judge you in the meantime. I think that's one of the best leadership lessons that you could give is just to show up authentically. And when you show up authentically, others can join you there. But the fact that somebody didn't like you because you were blonde, I mean, come on. Let's back up on that one just a little. But I can't say I'm surprised. Interesting.
It's sad though, but I think it's all perspective. I think we all need to work together and we all have different experiences. We all have different stories. We've all had different struggles and maybe they had a situation with a blonde woman that they just, maybe I identify as that blonde woman. And every time I talk, it pulls back that onion of a painful thing in their life. And so I just kind of let it be and the right people stay and thankfully the ones that are not the right people go. And it's such a blessing to look at it that way.
Absolutely is. Well, I think that you are fantastic, and everything that you're doing is pretty fantastic too. Tell us just a little bit about your podcast because it is such a fascinating thing. I mean, you have had some incredible guests and some incredible just conversations on there. So tell us more about it.
Yeah, I joke about this. My husband and I joke about this a lot. The podcast started as our weekend job, and we had no idea what we were doing. So, before I answer that, I want to take you back to when I first started speaking. I started speaking with my back to the audience because I was so nervous to speak in front of a room. Fast forward to where I am today with the podcast. And the podcast really started out of a place of give, and it still is a place of give. And the give is when I was coming up young in my career, I had started jobs super, super young, than was really even allowed to back in the day. And I didn't have any tools. I didn't have the mindset to know how to show up authentically, to not be fearful, to lead with courage and understand how to invest my money the way I was making money. And so I made a ton of mistakes with money, with, how I was showing up, what I was saying, what I was doing. And so the podcast really is leadership where you are. So we talk about all different types of things like negotiating your salary and money and security and your brand and networking and all things that you're going to have to be part of at one point of your life or another. And they all are going to happen at one point. You might need networking when you get the job, but might need to, work on your mindset before you get the job. And so we really cover the gamut of topics. And it's funny, I've had so many people, like hundreds of people, that keep telling me to focus in on one thing or one subject or one topic. And I don't think that's who we are anymore in our life. We're not just, I'm not just Melissa with a dual engineering degree. I'm Melissa that has kids and I do yoga and I'm married and I live in Texas and I'm all these other things. So that's what I'm hoping the podcast is for others.
I Yes, for all of that, yes. The reason that I introduce my guests the way I do is for that exact reason. I want you to know that this is a multifaceted person who has all kinds of things to bring to the table. And I don't want to narrow either. And I know every branding place will tell you that's your first mistake, right? Is to narrow in. But I think we need productive joy at work. I think we need productive joy at home. I think we need productive joy with our spouses. We need productive joy with our friends, right? Like it isn't just one thing. And I think that you're right with leadership too. It isn't just, okay, I'm going to be a leader in the gaming industry, period. Yeah, you'd narrow your audience and get a really great niche going, but gosh, if that wouldn't benefit all these people over here too. So I'm glad that you're not narrowing, and I'm glad that you are listening to your gut on that one, because I know that it has definitely benefited a whole lot of people because of it, which I think is pretty great. And Melissa, I could talk to you for days, but people just won't listen for days. I don't know what the problem is. So I have some rapid fire questions for you. Are you willing?
Yes, let's do it.
Okay. Question number one. What is your definition of fun?
Adventure.
Mm, love it. Okay. How do you know that you are showing up as your authentic self?
Feedback.
Oh gosh, good answer. How do you channel your best self on your worst days?
I start with me first. Every day I start with me first because I can't be my best for my family or my work or all my other things I do if I'm not centered in me first.
I like to say you can't pour from an empty cup, right? Like you have to put your oxygen mask on first, for sure.
100%.
Yeah, so tough question because you have danced all over wonderful information for the last 30 minutes or so. But if people can only remember one thing from what you talked about today, what's the one major thing you want to leave them with?
I would say the one thing I want to leave people with is we're all a work in progress. We're all feeling, seeing, learning people. And so be patient with the process and realize that with each kind of mistake or choice is another step towards where you really need to be going. So if I could leave anybody with that, just have grace in yourself and realize you're going to make mistakes. It's going to be messy. Just keep leading in because there is a light at the end of that tunnel.
Ugh, couldn't agree more. I love it. So how are people going to find you, Melissa? If they listen to this and went, "Oh my gosh, I need more of her in my life." What's the best way to find you?
Yeah, all of our podcasts are on YouTube. You can find us on the Executive Connect podcast on YouTube or any of your favorite streaming channels. I'm also on all the social media channels. I spend the most time on LinkedIn. So, Melissa Aarskaug on LinkedIn, and I'm happy to connect with you and share a little joy.
Yeah, you and your 20,000 connections. You are doing well, my friend.
And you know what I will say too? I am launching a book that's coming this summer focused on and for women in leadership. So I will keep you posted. We're
Yeah, do you
still,
know when that's going to launch?
well, it was launching this summer, but apparently I wrote too much. So we're scaling it back.
That Yeah, I'm a coach, and that happens more often than you can imagine, that they, like, have all this information, you're like, "Okay, no one's gonna read all of that. We've gotta back that up." That could be book number 2. Like, let's here
Yes.
for another day. Oh, I love that. Well, we are so excited to read your book, and I can't wait to send that to my audience. I definitely will, but thank you so much for being a guest today. I know you could have been doing many other things, but you chose to spend time with us, and I'm very grateful.
Thank you so much, Dr. Christie, for having me here today.
It was fun. And listeners, oh my gosh, you guys are getting so many master classes in brilliance and wonder. And so, my goal for you is that you grab one or two nuggets of wisdom so that you can turn around and figure out a way to turn fun into action.